Welcome to Math Science History's Friday Flashcard. Today's flashcard is Women in Leadership. I love that phrase. Just 3 words, Women in Leadership. On February 26, 2025, the United States government instructed NASA to remove those 3 words from all public-facing pages under an order signed by Donald Trump. Just to be clear, women weren't removed from leadership roles. That's yet to be seen. But the United States government is no longer giving women the spotlight for being successful women despite our recent recognition over the last 150 years. And that's just 150 years of recognition finally achieved, after about 3,000 years of being silenced. Yeah, 3,000 years. Trust me, I've done the math. So today, I'm going to briefly discuss the 1893 Congress of Women at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. The World's Columbian Exposition, also known as the Chicago World's Fair, was held in 1893. Among the fair's many events, one stood out: the World's Congress of Representative Women, a week-long gathering of female leaders discussing issues ranging from education and suffrage to health and science. This gathering was a landmark event for women in science, mathematics, and academia. It provided a platform for some of the most brilliant women of the era, including chemist Ellen Swallow Richards, physician Mary Putnam Jacobi, and mathematician Christine Ladd Franklin. This Congress, held from May 15th to May 21st, was a groundbreaking moment in the fight for gender equality in academia and professional fields. Over 81 sessions and 200 speakers discussed topics often overlooked by mainstream society. For women in science, it was a moment of recognition, advocacy, and inspiration. Ellen Swallow Richards was the first woman to be admitted into Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. She was a chemist, an environmental scientist, and one of the most influential figures at the Congress. Richards was a trailblazer in many ways. She laid the foundation for modern home economics and was a pioneer in sanitary engineering. At the Congress of Women, Richards spoke passionately about the intersection of science and everyday life. She argued that chemistry and hygiene were essential for improving public health, particularly in urban environments. She was instrumental in establishing sanitary science, advocating for cleaner water and better nutrition, and emphasizing women's roles in applying scientific principles to home management. Beyond her speech, Richards had already achieved remarkable feats. She had conducted one of the first large-scale water quality studies in the United States, developing the first state water quality standards. She was also deeply involved in nutritional science, working on studies that examined the effects of diet on health. Her presence at the fair reinforced that women had a rightful place in scientific research and public policy. Thanks to Richards, the field of environmental science gained momentum, and her work continues to influence public health policies today. Another powerhouse at the Congress was Mary Putnam Jacobi, a physician, writer, and medical researcher. Jacobi was a fierce advocate for women's medical education and fought against the prevailing notion that women were too fragile for rigorous intellectual pursuits. Yeah, that's what the men told us, that we were too fragile to learn science. It's ludicrous. At the 1893 Congress of Women, Jacobi presented her research on women's health and medical education. She challenged widely held beliefs about female physiology, particularly the myth that menstruation made women unfit for academic or professional work. Through extensive scientific studies, she debunked these ideas. She demonstrated that women were just as capable as men in medicine and science. Jacobi's contributions extended beyond her speech at the Congress. She was the first woman to attend the École de Médecine in Paris, basically medical school. She became one of the leading figures in women's health research. She wrote extensively on pediatrics, neurology, and pathology, emphasizing the need for evidence-based medicine. Her legacy is profound. Her work paved the way for future generations of female doctors and medical researchers. And thanks to her relentless advocacy, medical schools began opening their doors to women, allowing them to train alongside men. Another remarkable woman who attended this event was Christine Ladd Franklin, a mathematician, logician, and psychologist. She pioneered the study of color vision and was one of the first women to contribute significantly to mathematical logic. Ladd Franklin was mainly known for her work on the theory of color perception, which challenged the dominant theories of the time. She argued against the widely accepted Young-Helmholtz theory of color vision, proposing her own evolutionary model that explained how color perception developed in humans. Despite earning a PhD in mathematics from Johns Hopkins University, she was not officially awarded her degree until 44 years later due to institutional gender biases. At the Congress of Women, she spoke about the challenges women faced in academia and the need for greater inclusion in mathematical sciences. Ladd Franklin's advocacy helped advance the fight for women's recognition in higher education and research. Her persistence in pushing against gender barriers made her an inspiration for future women in STEM. The 1893 Congress of Women declared that women were here to stay in science, medicine, and academia. The speeches and discussions at this Congress echoed for decades, inspiring women to push boundaries in their respective fields. Ellen Swallow Richards' work laid the groundwork for environmental science and home economics. Mary Putnam Jacobi's medical research led to better healthcare and educational opportunities for women in medicine. Christine Ladd Franklin's contributions to mathematical logic and vision science are still studied today. This Congress was a turning point, demonstrating that women's intellect and contributions were essential to scientific progress. While gender barriers still existed, events like this made it impossible to ignore the growing presence of women in academia. So why is it essential to have Women's History Month? Why is it important to note women in leadership roles, especially on government pages like NASA? Well, we live in a world that's shaped by the work, courage, and resilience of countless women. Yet, for much of history, their stories were left out of textbooks, ignored by the media, and sidelined by the public. Women's History Month is a reminder to highlight these incredible contributions that often go unrecognized. The value of recognition is essential. First, recognizing Women's History Month in the United States and around the world allows us to reflect on the vast impact women have had in every field, including science, politics, art, education, and beyond. Consider these trailblazing women. Marie Curie, who revolutionized science with her work on radioactivity, or Maya Angelou, whose words gave voice to generations of marginalized people. These names may be familiar, but countless other women's stories remain untold and could eventually dissolve away, much like Hypatia's story almost did. This month invites us to remember them. By highlighting women's accomplishments, we also break down barriers. Young girls today can see themselves in roles they might have never imagined, like astronauts, engineers, and leaders, and presidents. Boys can grow up recognizing women as equals and be empowered to appreciate their contributions to society. Boys eventually go on to become fathers, some to daughters. I can't begin to tell you how many women in the world, including myself, were empowered by their moms and their dads. Another reason Women's History Month matters is because it helps challenge the stereotypes that still exist today. Learning about women who defied the odds opens doors for more inclusive conversations and critical thinking. A diverse perspective enriches our understanding of history, creating a space for different voices to be heard. We're all familiar with the famous names, Rosa Parks, Frida Kahlo, and Sally Ride, but there are so many more unsung heroes whose work still impacts us today. There's Dr. Mae Jemison, the first African-American woman in space, or Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman elected to Congress. As we recognize their stories, we amplify those often left out of mainstream narratives. When we recognize women's achievements, we reframe how we view history. It becomes more inclusive, more accurate, and more empowering. Just think about the shift in cultural conversations, from the role of women in the workplace, to women in politics, to women in sports. The more we learn and celebrate, the more we create a future where equality is the norm, not the exception. Women's History Month does more than honor the past. Women's History Month shapes the future. Recognizing women's contributions creates a society that values everyone equally, regardless of gender. It's a step toward justice, progress, and opportunity for all. So let's take the time to learn, share, and reflect. Seek out stories of women who inspire you. It's the scientist who shaped your career path, the artist who changed how you see the world, and the activist who challenged the status quo. Women's stories matter. Women are worth recognizing, especially women in leadership. Thanks for tuning into Flashcards. Until next time, carpe diem, and here's to women in leadership.